Hello and welcome to a Friday edition of the Osceola Seminole Sidelines. My name is Pat Burnham, and I am joined today by Nick Carlisle. Nick, what's happening, buddy?
Well, just got a lot of time to spend and talk all the recruiting in the world with you. Hurt myself a little bit yesterday, rolled over, got the ankle in bad shape. So we've been better health wise. I wonder if Jerry does hazard pay. Does he do hazard pay? I
I don't
wonder. I
know.
wonder if that might have to reach out about hazard pay. Of course, I'm joking, but otherwise, it just getting into the meat and bones of this spring transfer window, which obviously the last day to get in is today. So Florida State's got some guys on campus this weekend and into next week. So it'll be interesting to see who they can lock down and who else they might bring in.
Yeah, as Nick said, the portal is going to close at the end of business today. Your name's got to be in if you want to get it in. Now, the interesting thing will be when we learn about the names that jumped in today. Will it be today? Will it be on Monday? Because I do not think the NCAA clears the paperwork over the weekend. Now, obviously, those kids can go about their business without it being announced. But so, yeah, this been kind of the 10-day portal period for Florida State, Nick, has been kind of boring for lack of a better word. Like I thought we might see more kids from Florida State jump in the portal. I don't think we've seen but about eight off this roster jump in. I don't have the exact number in front of me. Three were obviously receivers, two offensive linemen. So were you surprised that we didn't, before we get into who Florida State may or may not bring in, were you surprised that we did not see more guys enter the portal off this existing roster?
Yeah, a little bit, especially because it seems like that Florida State was putting a lot of emphasis on the exit interview this time, making sure that kids know exactly where they are in the standing order in terms of how this new coaching staff perceives them, what they want from them. I was a little bit surprised that we didn't see more defensive backs hop in the portal. I felt like we could have seen like maybe a Conrad Hussey get in the portal. Of course, he's been injured this spring, so he wouldn't have been able to practice this spring either. But I was surprised that we didn't see more defensive backs pop into the portal. A couple more offensive linemen like a Bryson Estes or something. Some of the older guys that maybe you would talk to them and be like, hey, look, you've got an opportunity to start or at least get some playing time somewhere else, especially with an entire new offensive line that they brought in the fall window. So I'm a little bit surprised, Pat, that only 8 or so people or players got off the boat. I think it's 8 exactly. 1, 2.
Yeah,
8
I was
exactly.
too. I thought you might see a receiver or two jump in, which they did. And
For
then, of
different
course,
reasons.
yeah. One probably didn't want to jump in that did.
No.
And then, of course, I thought you were right. I thought you might see an offensive lineman jump in, either a Rizzi or an Estes. Both are entering their last year of eligibility. We don't project either to start. Now, listen, Bryson's been here his whole career and doesn't seem like the kind of kid that's going to just pack his bags and get out of town. He's had several opportunities to do that, and clearly loves Florida State. So I was a little bit surprised there. On defense, I thought maybe you might see a linebacker or two jump in the portal after they brought in Elijah Herring and Stephon Thompson and Caleb Lavelle. How do you pronounce his name, Nick? You're better with names.
LaValle, I think.
So I thought you might see maybe a younger guy. I don't know who. I just thought just from a number standpoint, but they're exactly 3 deep as they stand scholarship wise. And then we did see a couple of guys, at least in the scrimmage. AJ played well in that scrimmage, so I thought, hey, he may earn a scholarship through this thing. So you may see another linebacker slide out. To date, and listen, there's still 2 more hours for these kids to enter. We could get hit with a surprise, and then really, when you look at the youth in the secondary, it's probably a good thing they did not lose anybody, because I still think they're trying to find themselves in the secondary, and one of the reasons I believe that's because what we're going to talk about, and that they have a kid in town right now who you reported on yesterday. The University of Houston cornerback, Jeremiah Wilson. That's Jeremiah Wilson, right? I'm right on that,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yep.
So Jeremiah Wilson's in town. Now, listen, just what do we need to know about Jeremiah? Give us the background in case people have not read the message board with what you put about his history at Houston. But what do we need to know about Jeremiah?
Yeah, this is a really interesting one. He signed with Syracuse out of high school, and of course, who was at Syracuse as the defensive coordinator when he signed there? One Tony White, who then promptly left for Nebraska for the next 2 seasons. It was kind of interesting to me that he didn't follow Tony to Nebraska, which when he first entered the portal was like, well, maybe a reunion isn't as likely as you might think. But he was one of the better cornerbacks in coverage last season. If you're a PFF nut, one of the higher rated PFF grades at the position in coverage last season. Had 4 interceptions, I think 25 tackles, 4 pass breakups. So he had a productive season in Houston. He really had a couple of productive seasons at Houston, and on campus right now. It's looking like a reunion may very well be on the cards, depending on how the next few hours go. But I personally feel pretty good about Florida State being able to lock this one in.
Yeah, like you said, I think it's the only visit he's got right now. Listen, I think these kids make decisions a lot quicker in the spring than they do the winter portal. These kids are going to I know Mike's probably going to want these kids in school in the offseason program as soon as the first summer semester starts, whether that's summer A or summer C, if they still do it like the old days. But anyway, they're going to want them enrolled as quickly as possible, get them integrated into the locker room, into the offseason conditioning program, and into the playbook. Here's and there's this narrative out there on social media. The reason they're looking at Jeremiah is because they want to move one of these corners to safety. That may be the case, but I don't see it, because when you look at who we have at corner, which is at one corner, we've got Charles Lester, Jabril Rawls, Jamari Howard, Max Redmond. At the other corner, we got Quindarius Jones, Kai Bates, Ricky Knight, Shamar Anu at corner. The only guy that fits the safety body is Quindarius, and I think they like him at corner. Could they move him? Yes. I think they're trying to bring Jeremiah in because they want an experienced corner, a guy they can put up on the island. And right now, whether it's Quindarius did play well at times last year when he was put in the ball game. But Charles Lester doesn't have any experience. Jabril Riles doesn't have any experience. Howard, Redmond, Bates, Knight, and Arnaud, none have played college football or very little college football. So I don't think this is a move to reconfigure the secondary room. I think this is a move strictly because after going through 13 days of spring, they feel like there's a shortcoming at corner. What are your thoughts on that?
No, I agree. And Florida State, I think, is still shopping for a safety in the portal. I don't think they've given that up, even though Jeremiah is looking good for them right now. I have my take on it is from what I can tell and from what I've been told and understand is that Florida State was really, really looking and hoping that one of the, we'll call it the South Florida contingent, Bates, Lester, Howard, Ricky Knight, somebody would present themselves in the spring and take that next step. Not so much on the field, because we've seen Ricky Knight like have some good practices previously. Practice, but also the maturity level that you need to be an every down or rotational starter, right?
Yeah,
they were really looking for somebody to present themselves this spring. Jabril Rawls absolutely did that. I think the fact that you were hearing maybe some chirps about Shamar Arnaud cracking the 2 deep as a freshman tells you how well that went. I think this is very much a move for Florida State to be able to shore up their depth at corner, if not have a fringe starter at that position that can rotate with who I would assume at this time to be Jabril and Quindarius. I don't think they would be moving anybody to safety. I think they're still shopping in the portal for a safety, or maybe they're content with what they have there, although I think that's the less likely option. Maybe, that's another option to consider. Maybe they're okay with what Earl, KJ Kirkland, Shaheem, and Ashlyn Barker can provide for you. Or can provide for them already. So I don't think that they're going to be moving anybody to safety. I think this is purely about the cornerback position and how the depth of the room kind of displayed itself over the 13 practices of the spring.
Yeah, I think they want to find somebody that can hold their water when the lights come on, and that the lights are going to be
Yes.
bright on August 30th against Alabama. And let's say, like I said, it's young, it's talented. They're young and talented at cornerback. They're long, they're athletic, they run well. But other than Quindarius at corner, you don't have a lot of guys that have played a ton of ball. And
Yeah.
really, Quindarius has not played a ton, but he would be the most likely guy, in my opinion, to move to safety off our projected depth chart. So I don't see that, and I do agree with you. I do think they're looking for a safety. We've seen them talk. We know they were contacted the Slaughter kid at Tennessee. Nothing's come of that. Not that
No.
it, not that it's couldn't, because as far as I know, he is still visiting or has not. He has not announced that he is going anywhere. Now they did not recruit him very hard coming. I don't think he was a guy they recruited out of high school. Now the other guy that we talked about on Wednesday that would be a safety prospect would be Jarvis Boatwright. You reported that he had entered the portal on Wednesday afternoon. We mentioned him on the Wednesday show. There's been no rumors about a potential, but again, I think what they want is experience, right? And Jarvis was redshirted last year at USC, did not play a snap, but that would be a safety to keep your eye on. And I do think we'll see some kids enter the portal today that Florida State will probably get in on. But yeah, I think safety was my concern. I think they need one really proven, dependable, and particularly in the just getting people to the ground. I think they need one more safety back there in what could be a talented group, but I really think they need somebody to push Shaheem, and we'll see if that transpires.
Yeah.
I think I think you reported that there was one DB, although he's a corner, he's another corner, and that's the kid from Hawaii, Caleb Brown. And Caleb, his journey's kind of interesting. He's kind of been all over the place. He's from Ocala Vanguard High School initially. Florida State did not recruit him very high. He's listed at 6'1", 165, so he is a corner all the way. He's originally from Anniston, Alabama. Brown began his career at Kennesaw State University before transferring to Butler. Appeared in 13 games in 2023 for Hawaii. Then he appeared in 13 games or 12 games in 2024 and has over 41 tackles, 14 PBUs in that time. Kind of a slider kid. Now 6'1", 165. Nick was his weight his first year at Hawaii. They've taken down his profile for 2024, but it's still on the 2023 roster. So I looked it up and I put that down. But again, he is a kid that and Florida State's got some ACC competition for him in Virginia and Virginia Tech. Those are the 3 visits he has planned. Do you think Caleb is a backup plan to Jeremiah? Do you think you think they would take 2 corners? And could Jeremiah play? I think Jeremiah's a corner all the way, but what do you think?
Yeah, the answer really is I don't know. I feel like they could take 2 cornerbacks, but I feel like really the focus would be on getting 1 cornerback, 1 safety. To be fair to Caleb, I don't know if he's a backup option. I do think that they do land Wilson. And we don't do future casts at Rivals for transfer portal prospects, but he's got my unofficial future cast, so to speak. I think depending, it's funny where his visit lines up because I believe it's at the start of next week, or Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that. The visit is going to be next week, so maybe we'll see what happens, whether or not Florida State locks down Wilson, whether or not there's a couple of more safety prospects or cornerback prospects that hop in the portal today. It's tough to read because I don't know exactly what they're looking for number-wise. And again, the question that we kind of talked about with Wilson to begin with, are they okay? I know they're shopping for safety, but are they going to be okay sitting with what they have if they don't find somebody that they really, really like? And just how concerned are they about their cornerback depth? So I know it's a cop-out answer to say I don't know, but I think we need to see a little bit more about if Florida State continues to pursue some of these guys that are hopping in the portal today after Wilson leaves campus tomorrow.
Yeah, and if listen, if you're right, and they're going to get Wilson, I think they probably are going to. I don't know if they'd bring in two corners. They could. I mean, they're both kids have started. They don't have Quindarius played last year, but I don't think he started any games. I could be wrong about that. He might have started some later in the season. But yeah, I think that maybe one corner.
And what's the price like? What's the price like as well? Because that's something that crossed my mind too. It's like you take a look at the production that this guy had last season. That I can't imagine that's overly cheap. Being one of the more prominent prospects at cornerback in the portal for this window. Yeah. So if they take him at the price that is agreeable, how much of that money is left? How much money was freed up by the people that left from the roster in this window? I don't. Maybe Brown is the cheaper backup option if you want to put it that way. But again, not to be disrespectful to Brown, I don't know if that's the way that they're playing it or not.
Well, at least based off reputation, Wilson is the better prospect coming out of the portal.
Yes.
Based on what we've heard. Listen, I haven't watched film on either one of them. Who really knows at the end of the day? But yeah, listen, I think that obviously they are concerned about what's going on at corner, although they were really fired up about the defensive backfield. I remember Tony White just bragging on them the first couple of days through spring. So obviously the deeper they got in there, the more concern they had and feel like they need a veteran presence. I do think they need a safety. We'll see what happens. Listen, I agree with you. I think Florida State, based off what I know, spent most of their transfer portal budget in the winter when they went heavy. Now, listen, obviously, to your point, they probably have freed up some money with Hakeem and Jalen leaving, and I'm sure TJ had a nice little deal as well. Jalen, was not a portal guy, so his contract was probably not as aggressive as a guy like TJ's, who they got out of the portal, or Hakeem who was a 5-star. But yeah, so there is some money that's been freed up. You would think. How much, we don't know. And listen, I think that's one of the reasons they have struggled with the room. I think they've got some problems with heading into fall camp next year, which is wide receiver. They have not, picked up any steam with some of the major guys that we've seen. The Hurry kid commit to Louisville. They were in contact with him. They were in contact with Keelan Marion from BYU, and he has set up visits to SMU, Miami, Arizona State, and Tennessee. Now, hey, that doesn't mean he can't show up in Tallahassee, but right now it doesn't look like he is. And then, I know they really, at least in the winter portal, when Ted Hurst announced that he was intended to enter the portal at Georgia State and did not when they brought in Dell McGee from Georgia to be the head coach. Dell talked him into staying. Well, he's back in the portal now. There's been no smoke about Florida State and Ted Hurst, and he's a really accomplished receiver at Georgia State, and he's a guy that I know they had sincere interest in the winter, but right now, and I think maybe one of the reasons for that is because he is going to be one of the more highly sought after wide receivers in this spring portal. So we'll see what happens there. But Ted is in there. Doesn't look like they're going to get in on Keelan. Now, the guy that I find fascinating, and his story is interesting as well, is Tony Johnson from Cincinnati, who you said, have you been able to confirm when his visit's going to be?
Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
So he'll be here tomorrow, probably as soon as Wilson leaves.
All right. So Tony Johnson, a wide receiver from Cincinnati, 5'10", 187. Played for Cincinnati last year and was the team's third leading receiver in both receptions, 48, and receiving yards, 449. He played for FIU in 2023, where he was a second on the team with 37 catches. In 2022, he had 23 catches for 258 yards, has 1 year eligibility remaining. I think because he is a proven commodity at the P4 level, he might be a little bit pricey. You reported that they have been in contact with him since then, and I'm sure you've seen this. Miami, it looks like he's already taken a visit to Miami. He's got a picture of a visitor's pass with the Hurricane football on there. So I think he was either there yesterday or has been there somewhere earlier in the week. Then Kentucky and UCF are both trying to make a push for him. So it'll be interesting to see how that happens. I think that He's got some leverage with Florida State. I keep on hearing, well, they don't need that many receivers at Florida State because of Gus's offense. That's crazy. They need more receivers, and they need a proven receiver because
you need people that can catch the ball.
Yeah,
I mean, if you were watching the team last year, there is nobody on the roster last year that is going to take a magical jump in catching the football.
Yeah, and here's the thing. And everybody keeps on saying, well, it's great that they got rid of Jordan Scott, and if Akeem didn't want to be here, go ahead. But I guarantee people that are listening or watching this show, they thought when they signed Jordan Scott, he was going to be a member of the two deep. They thought when Akeem Williams going in this year would definitively be a member of the two deep. And Jaylen Brown, based off everything that Mike was saying early in the spring, was having a good spring and looked like he was going to compete for a lot of playing time in the fall, if not start. So I think that those are big holes to fill, not because of what they've done, but because of what they were expected to do. And now you got three guys that you were planning to. You don't sign a JUCO kid unless you expect him to. He didn't. He had 2 years of eligibility left. Most of the time, when you sign a JUCO kid, he can't play. It's a miss. It's not because you bring JUCO kids into play immediately. That's why you bring in most upperclassmen transfers. So Johnson to me is really important unless you can get somebody else in here. And right now, that's the only receivers set a visit, right?
Yes, Johnson's the only one as far as my knowledge right now.
Yeah. So now listen, again, the only thing that happens tonight is the portal closes. You can still make visits. There is no timeline for that. Florida State could bring somebody in on August 29th and suit him up for the August 30th game against Bama.
Cam Riley, so to speak.
Yeah. But that is a concern, and I do think that one of the reasons we're seeing them go after some of the guys that they have gone after is because I think they probably went heavy on Deuce and Squirrel NIL-wise and are in a situation they did not think they would find themselves in. But again, is he going to cost as much as Akeem was or Jaylen was or Jordan was? So can they sell a value to Johnson coming to Florida State and being here? I'm sure they're breaking down the Miami receiver room for him. Hey, this is why you could play here before there, if that's the case. But you always compare depth charts with the teams you're competing against in the recruiting thing. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that visit goes. Now, the one to me that you reported, and as I got into it, I found fascinating. They are supposed to bring in Josh Raymond, who would be a redshirt freshman offensive lineman when he steps on campus. He was a true freshman last year at Vandy. Interesting here, Nick. He is from Lake Mary High School in Orlando. He's listed at 6'4", 298. Did not see any action this past season for the Commodores. He was a 3-star prospect coming out of high school. Interesting to me, UCF nor FSU offered him out of high school, but my belief has to be that Herb Hand and Gus Malzahn are aware of him because he probably camped at UCF, because I know he camped at USF, and if you're going to camp at USF, why wouldn't you camp at UCF? But he was only offered by Stanford, Kansas, Liberty, and USF as far as Division I schools in my research. That's all I could find on him. He was lightly recruited, is my point, at the major college level. He doesn't fit the production versus potential thing that Mike and them have gone to, where they're looking for more production than they are potential. But they do have to sign a lot of offensive linemen in this class, because by our count, now they're just losing 7 because TJ's gone already. He was 8. He was going to be the 8th guy that I think he was going to be one of the guys they lost after.
Yeah,
I think he was.
No, I don't think they were. I don't think. Yeah. I mean, obviously, it sucks to lose any depth piece, but
yeah,
if I'm Florida State, I was like, do you want me to pack your bags for you?
Yeah,
I'll walk them out to the car.
Yeah. So Josh is coming. It's kind of a weird situation. So I think there's got to be a relationship there. They have to know about it, or they've talked to the Vandy coaches. The kid's just not happy there. They're happy with his development through his one season there, and they're just trying to help him find a college home because it's not working out for whatever reason. But my experience in and around the profession tells me that Herb already is aware of this kid and has been aware of him from his time at Lake Mary High School. And so we'll see what happens.
Well, the other possibility is that maybe it's a Gunnar Hansen recommendation.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could think about it like that, look, from what I know that Herb obviously has to have watched his tape and liked what he's seen to in order to want to get him on campus. It is weird in the sense that, okay, if we're talking about trading players here, because essentially you're trading like a Jalen Early, who's going to be probably a backup for somebody who's not going to see the field, and he's going to essentially be a backup, but with more years tacked onto him. So it is a weird one. It's an on visit, but clearly either maybe Gunnar said something or Herb and Norvell liked enough of what they saw from his tape. And maybe it really is a melting pot, like a gigantic stew of a bunch of different factors that have led to this weird, like unpredictable, out of left field visit for a position that maybe you could have seen them. I think you definitely would have seen them lose more than gain, if that makes sense. I mean, they are losing more than gaining, but you know what I mean? Like I don't think either of us really went into this portal thinking that they were going to go for an offensive lineman unless a lot of people left.
Yeah, I was, I was not. Now, the thing that makes sense is if you feel good about a young guy who's already in a college program and he does want to transfer, it does give you a year head start because we know they're going to have to we got him signing 7 to 8 offensive linemen in this class. You're not going to be able to sign 7 guys out of the portal. So you're going to either have to go not experienced guys out. Let me clarify that. You're not going to go sign 7 experienced portal offensive linemen. You're going to get 3 or 4, kind of like we saw them get 4 this year. I think, hey, if you've got good reports on him, he's long, 6'4", 298, probably translates better to a guard at Florida State than a tackle. But I thought that one was very interesting that, a young offensive lineman, but with what they've got to have, doesn't hurt to kick the tires, right? Bring him in, talk to him, see what.
Especially with that many years remaining, with his eligibility. So
you'll have 4. And then, of course, if you missed it on Wednesday, I think this broke right before the show started. Nycar went back to Miami. Everybody thought that might be a fit for Florida State because he was highly recruited by Florida State coming out of high school in South Georgia. And but he flipped right back and went back to Miami, and I'm sure he was just testing his market value as we see kids do from time to time. So that is the latest on the portal. Like I said, when this whole thing started, I thought it might get a little bit crazy, but it has not. But listen, again, there's 92 minutes to go before that thing closes, and it would not surprise me to see somebody jump in that Florida State goes after, and it would surprise me to see somebody on Florida State's current roster jump in at the 11th hour. Although it could be anybody, as our guy Scott Frost said down at UCF, the reality of it is everybody's in the portal, whether they're in the portal or not. My brother has told me that. We've heard Nick Saban talk about it. Between those guys, Nick's got 50 years. My brother's got 25. Frost has got about 25 between his NFL playing days and coaching. So there's 100 years of experience telling us that everyone's in the portal, whether they are or not. And that's kind of what we've seen this year. So we'll see what happens. All right, Nick. Now, we have not talked a lot about high school recruiting, and it's kind of
it's been a while.
Yeah, I know Florida State was expecting a big unofficial visit weekend last weekend, and obviously that did not happen for reasons we all are very aware of at this point. The tragedy that took place on last Thursday on campus, and they were supposed to have about 24 kids. But they have started back on the recruiting side again. We've seen the coaches hit the road, particularly Herb Hand, who flew out to Arizona and hand delivered an offer to a 4-star offensive tackle named Aaron Thomas. What do we need to know about Aaron? I know you did a little bit more research than I did on this one.
Yeah, I talked to Aaron a little bit about, kind of what the offer meant. He was on campus at some point in the fall last year, and they kind of held off on offering him. Obviously, I know all offers go through Mike, but also could have been just a regime type thing with Atkins and what he was looking for on the offensive line. But they elected not to offer him when he was on campus. Obviously, offered him later or earlier this week, and it's a case of, this is a lifelong Florida State guy. Obviously, his father, Greg Thomas, was a Florida State Seminole in the late '90s. He said to me, I was even at the national championship game when they won a few years ago, which a few years ago, that's approaching on 12 now. So, wow. Doesn't that make you feel old? Essentially, look, I am always a fan of expanding an offensive lineman board. This is another prospect that would be good to add to the official visit list. He does plan on taking an official visit at some point. He's just got to schedule it. He's got a couple scheduled already. Minnesota is one of them, and I'm blanking on the others right now. I think one of them he may be going to Washington as well. I can't remember.
I think that's correct. I think that's correct.
He's got a couple of visits set up already, but Florida State is going to be one that they should get him on campus and add him to the official visit schedule. So I'm really pleased with what Herb has done in terms of lining up official visitors and giving them a chance, because we've mentioned it a couple times in the show already. They've got a lot of bodies to replace.
Yeah, and he is the son of former FSU offensive lineman Eric Thomas.
Did I say Greg? I think I said Greg.
Yeah. Oh, you said Eric. Well, I think it's Eric Thomas. Yeah, I know it's Eric Thomas. Got to look at the roster. He was a center on the 1997 team. I think that might have been his freshman year. I cannot remember. But yeah, talk about feeling old. I was younger than you are when the first national championship was won. But yeah, so that was kind of cool that Herb flew all the way out there to extend the offer. Of course, it makes more sense once you find out that it was a legacy, and they probably had a pretty good feeling if they got an offer in, they could get in on the game with him. A couple of other recruiting updates, Nick. I know there were at least two new official visits set for this, not for this weekend, but guys this week said they were going to make official visits to Florida State. Roseboro, the offensive lineman, I believe CJ Brunel, both have scheduled official visits. What do we need to know? When are they visiting? What are your thoughts on both of those two kids? I think CJ is committed to Nebraska, correct?
Yeah, he is. Sam, we'll go with Sam first. Sam is a guy that Florida State's been on for well over a year now. He's been repeatedly coming back on campus. He was on campus this spring. He was on campus in I think late January, early February, whatever date that was, for his junior day visit. He's very, very quiet about his recruitment, but they'll get him on campus on May 30th, and he's no short of offers. He's got a lot of really good offers, a lot of contention for his recruitment. CJ Brunel, that's a guy that they've been trying to flip for a while. Nebraska commit. He kind of really exploded earlier in kind of like the camp 7-on-7 events, where just how his speed is lightning quick. I think he ran like maybe a 10-1 or a 10-2 100-yard or something like that. He's very, very quick. This is a visit that I think has been set up for a while, but we just got the date. We couldn't confirm the date up until this point. I think he's going to be on campus. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up real quick. But he's going to be on campus, and that's kind of just another one of those defensive backs that Florida State is in on, and there seems to be a growing number of them where Florida State can add to what is already a pretty well-established defensive back class for Pat Surtain.
Yeah, he's done a good job recruiting, and I think maybe I
have the 13th for Bro now. Sorry to interrupt.
June 13th.
June 13th,
and it's May 31st for Sam Rosenbow, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and listen, recruiting is really fixing to pick up, because at least in the state of Florida, spring practice starts for most programs, even though I do think they can start this weekend. I think most programs, at least the coaches I've talked to, are starting on Monday, April 28th. So you will see the FSU coaching staff all over the place in the state of Florida, South Georgia. They will be making the rounds during the contact period and visiting kids in school, watching them practice. So things you will see probably some offers go out, probably more for 2027 than 2026, but you will probably see some guys that they think are late bloomers for 2026 get offered. Those usually happen with offensive linemen, defensive linemen, linebackers. Not so much with skill guys. And who knows? Maybe they'll find a quarterback out there that's a late.
Yeah, the options are slim and none right now. It's not. I think out of, and I know this is sort of going off topic, but I think if there's a couple of positions that I'm the most worried about in terms of Florida State's recruiting right now, it's defensive tackle and it's quarterback.
That'll be fine. Listen, we didn't know about.
It always seems it always seems bad, and then it'll pop up out of nowhere. It always gets better at some point.
But, just remember we didn't know about old Kevin Sperry this time last year.
Yeah, but that is
just about every day.
Yeah, that is. It's funny how that works, though. But I don't know. You've been doing this a lot longer than I have. Have you ever seen a kid pop up like that out of nowhere? It's got to be an outlier, right? It's got to be.
We kind of had a situation like that one year at South Florida. We ended up with BJ Daniels because everybody that was recruiting him as a quarterback. I mean, as a defensive back or athlete, and it was only us and Memphis that were going to recruit him in football as a quarterback. And John Calipari, we ended up with him by default because John Calipari would not allow him to try out for the Kentucky basketball team, and we would at USF. But we did not get it. And this is weird, Nick. We didn't get an official visit out of BJ. He just signed with us.
So what year was this? That is unheard of today.
2008.
That is years gone by.
2008. Yeah. So now I think we might have got like a last minute visit, but he visited the last weekend you could if he did visit. But so we ended up with him
11th hour.
Yeah, because Florida State wanted him as a DB. Florida wanted him as a wide receiver. We said, hey, we'll let you play quarterback, and that's how. Anyway, so I have seen it happen once, but you're right, it does not happen much. All right, so that's pretty much all the recruiting updates we have. Obviously, there's a lot going on with the NFL draft, and it looks like that Florida State will have at least one player go today. Azaria Thomas is, depending on which service you're writing or which writer you're reading, somewhere between 55 and 70th pick in the draft. So you got the second and third rounds today, which are essentially 33 through 65, and then so top 90 or so players will be drafted after the night. Do you see? I think AZ is going tonight. What do you think?
I think so too. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't go second or third round. I think I don't have a mock draft or anything, but I think probably mid to late second round is probably where AZ flies off the board. Because obviously there was a lot of teams that last night kind of, I don't know, made some weird picks, and maybe they're going to start focusing on need in the second round to where you may see some more like organized picks and a team that needs a cornerback. Because Will Johnson's still on the board, right? They've got a couple of guys. I think AZ probably falls late second round if I had to guess, but yeah.
Yeah, I saw somebody, I think, going. The one I looked at this morning was they had him going, I think, 59th to the Bucs, so that's late second round. Obviously, the other guy that might get drafted by the end of the third round is Josh Farmer. It would not surprise me to see him go late third, but I do think there's a chance that he does not go until Saturday. What are your thoughts on Josh Farmer?
Yeah, I'm kind of in agree. He had a good combine. He impressed a lot and he attend the Reese's Senior Bowl as well, if I remember correctly. But he had some decent pre-draft hype, but late third round, early fourth round is kind of where I have him right now.
Yeah. So it'll be touch and go for him today. I mean, back into the third round, he'd be one of the last guys off the board if that projection's right. Then of course you've got the fourth through seventh on Saturday, but he's definitely going to go. Now, one of the guys I was looking at that I'm surprised. As you know, I'm a big Alex Mastromano fan and thought he should have won the Ray Guy Award. So today I was just kind of looking to see what kind of draft projection that he had. Now the NFL, they listed him as a deep roster guy. Probably gets in a camp, but I was kind of surprised that he's not a draft guy because he had such a great year. Then they start talking about, well, he needs to work on hang time and getting rid of the ball quicker, those kind of things. So, we'll see. I have a hard time that he couldn't believing that he could not be a NFL punter. So we'll see what happens there. Then, of course, I know that Fitzy is projected to go. I saw somebody project him to be picked by the 49ers in the 7th round. So you could see up to 2 more guys picked. But when I told you that Mastromano might not be a draft pick, does that surprise you? Because I was
a little bit.
Because I was.
He was Florida State's best offensive weapon last year.
I was surprised when I read it. So yeah, I'm sorry. I got dogs barking everywhere around here.
No, you're okay. All I said was he was Florida State's best offensive weapon last year, so yeah. I'd be surprised if it wasn't a draft pick. At least in the 6th or 7th round, both Fitz and Mastromano. Maybe Fitz goes first. I could see a team taking a flyer on Fitz after the last 2 years that he's had. Obviously, he was a runner-up for the finalist for the award. But I mean, they did they roll Mastromano out frequently? I know there's like the difference between like the college punt and the
they did a lot of the rugby punt with him. Yeah.
So maybe that's where you get your projection of he needs to work on his release and his hang time. But I mean, he certainly has the leg to flip the field and really put the offense and pin them in. So obviously we'd be a little bit biased in thinking that Mastro deserves an NFL spot or a draft, ticket in the draft, but think that he definitely deserves it.
Yeah, I did too. Hopefully somebody will draft him because I do think I thought he was the best punter in college football. Now, obviously, what happens in college does not mean anything for the NFL draft. And one guy that found that out last night was Shadur Sanders. Listen, there's been so much conjecture on this. I'll say 2 things about this. This overwhelming conspiracy theory that's going all over Twitter that the NFL is getting back at Deion for something. Well, first of all, what are they getting back at Deion for? He is one of the most talented players that's ever played in the NFL. I don't think they hold a grudge against Deion. Secondly, the NFL does not have time to worry about what Deion and Deion's sons are doing. They're in the business of winning ball games and drafting players that they think can win. If somebody thought that they needed to spend first round money on Shadur Sanders, they would have spent the money on Shadur Sanders. For whatever reason, they didn't. But this conspiracy theory that this is getting back at Deion, and even his kids, Shadur was promoting this last night. Something's going on. His brother was doing it. Deion shaking his head when the Saints drafted whoever they. I mean, this is silly. And listen, here's the thing about the Sanders family as a whole. They want the attention, but they don't want the criticism. They want to be glorified, but they do not want to be criticized. You can't have it both ways. You can't ask for all the attention, and then when somebody says something you don't like, they're picking on me, and that's what Deion and his sons are doing. And I think, listen, if there's any Deion about this being about Deion, it's because Deion is a helicopter parent, and he's going to openly criticize whoever drafts his son if they don't use him the right way. So, as I said on Twitter last night, he is the only prospect in this draft that brings the automatic gold jacket with him. And I didn't mean that in Shadur Sanders being a future Hall of Famer. You're going to get the circus that comes with all the family. And you're going to have the cameras and the observations and the comments. And so, listen, I don't dislike Shadur as a prospect. I think he did a great job at Colorado. particularly behind a very porous offensive line that was a little bit better this year, but certainly not as bad as it was the year before. But anyway, I found the whole thing kind of laughable, and this conspiracy theory that it's everybody against Dion and Shadur kind of silly, and they are promoting it that way. And there's speculation. Are the Browns going to take him with the first pick tonight when they need a quarterback? Or are they going to take Jalen Milroe? And if they take Jalen Milroe over Shadir Sanders, the Twitter is going to explode. But what is your take on the whole? And listen, I've been watching the draft a long time. I don't think I've ever seen them talk about a player that wasn't drafted more than the players that were. And ESPN really,
oh my God,
ESPN should be kind of embarrassed about the fact that they could not stop talking about it. And of course, I think they're all hurt because their picks, the way they saw this draft playing out with him getting drafted in the first round, now they're kind of left with egg on their face because you had all these experts. And that's why, we're sitting there talking about the draft last night before it starts, and all these guys are giving these strong opinions about what's going to happen. And I said, guys, nobody knows what the hell's going to happen. So we can sit here and talk about it all night, or we can wait for the draft to start in 5 seconds. We're all going to find out. But what were your thoughts on the whole Shadir Sanders circus?
Yeah, I for me, it boils down to I just didn't think he was going to get taken in the first round. I thought that the Giants were going to take Abdul Carter, which they did. The Saints, obviously, there was a whole lot of smoke about the Saints liking Dart. I gotta say, I was when the Giants traded back into the first round, I was like, okay, they just traded back into the first round. They're going to take Shadur. When they didn't take Shadur at 25, I was like, wow, that's got to be a gut punch for the Sanders family. But for me personally, I just didn't think he was going to end up in the first round anyway. If I was going to bet money on it heading into it, I said Cam Ward's going number 1. Maybe we'll see Dart 2, and then Shadur is going to be probably a second rounder, which the Browns have like 2 picks in the first 5 and in the second round. So if you trade back and you get the quarterback that you wanted, plus a really, really nice defensive tackle in Mason Graham, that's not too shabby. I really like what the Browns did personally, honestly, last night. Yeah. Maybe New Orleans circles back on a QB. I believe they draft 40th. Let's see, taking a look here. Browns don't need a quarterback. Texans don't need a quarterback. I think he probably, if the Browns don't draft him within the first couple of picks in the second round, then that'll be really shocking. You're right. I think the Twitter machine is going to explode. Elon's going to have to salvage the server room because it's going to get fried. So I would imagine that's probably where it goes. But I mean, my take on it is like, I don't think it has anything to do with Dion. I think it has everything to do with the fact that Shadur just wasn't going to go in the first round. I think quarterbacks get hyped up every year to go in places that they probably shouldn't. Sometimes you have it where, there's a lot of quarterback needy teams at the front and you get quarterbacks that go like right in a row, and other times you get quarterbacks that for either television or comparison's sake, it's like, okay, well, it's Ward or Shadur. Who is it going to be? And it's like, and then Dart gets brought into things. It's like the Cam Ward was the number 1. Obviously, I don't think that Dart and Shadur really it wasn't close enough to be one of those like early picks to where obviously Browns trade back and all that, and Giants took their guy. So I think this has more to do with Shadur as a prospect than it does the family, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. Any surprise picks? Anything that any teams surprised you, or any draft pick that you were surprised by? Like for me, I thought that for sure Tyler Warren would be the first tight end picked.
Bears, that one bothered me.
The Bears picked Colston Loveland from Michigan, who obviously he's a talented kid, but I think Tyler Warren's the best tight end in the draft. I don't think it's close.
Yeah, scrolling through it right now. Ashton Genty to the Raiders that early was kind of surprising to me.
I thought that the Jags might grab him, to be honest with you, at 4.
That would have been the most Jags thing ever, but they did what they needed to. They got the right guy. How awesome is Trevor Lawrence to Travis Hunter going to be? That's going to be a really nice. That's going to be really nice.
Well,
Watch on
I
Sundays.
think. Listen, I had this discussion last night. I talked to some guys. Hey, I think he's a corner all the way. Not me. That's what they're telling me. I don't think he's going to play both ways. And my concern is if he plays both ways, he's going to get broken in half because he's a slight guy. But yeah, so
and the NFL is not college to where there's grown men running at you at full speed. Not many people are going to get hit by Ed Reed, for example, and get up as a wide receiver. Yeah. So,
I wanted to see. I wanted to see him go Gente, but I get everybody's. I get why everybody is fired up about what that kid can do. And listen, he's a phenomenal football player, tough football player. So we'll see. I like the Jags, so I hope they made the right pick. But of course, and they got Etienne and. Maybe they feel like he's, this is only, I think this is only going to be his second or third full season because he missed one season due to injury. So we'll see what happens there. Probably, that's probably the only one that really surprised me. The one I really liked, and I was surprised that he slipped as far as he did, was I thought Omarion Hampton from North Carolina might get drafted quicker than 22. And I think he's a great fit for the Chargers because they're going to run the ball. And, based off the schedule that Florida State played last year, he was probably one of my favorite players at Florida State to watch play the game, just simply play the game of football and how he played it. That was a hard-nosed kid. And so I thought he might go a little higher. Now, I'm not going to sit here and profess to know every professional football team's need in the draft, right? I'm just talking – the kids that I saw that I liked, he was one of my favorites that I saw all year. So I thought that was good for the Chargers. I'm a Chargers fan. I like old crazy Jim Harbaugh. I don't think I could work for him or play for him, but he's certainly interesting to watch as just a pro football fan. So that one surprised me. That one I liked. Any more that you liked or really didn't like?
I'm a huge fan of how Baltimore does drafts sometimes, where it's like it's a no-brainer pick. You take the safety from Georgia Starks, and it just feels like a very Baltimore pick. Like that feels like just a good fit for that organization and the type of defense that they like to run. So I like that pick. I loved Atlanta going and getting Jalen Walker. Well, I think it wasn't so much that. I think he fell to Atlanta, and we'll take him. But trading back in to get another edge rusher, I know Atlanta's pass rush was horrible last year, but to give up that much draft capital to go and get another edge rusher, I don't know. It'll be one of those things where return on investment, how good is it, right? Just scrolling through the picks here.
Falcons, they're not going to be any good.
No, Jahad Campbell. I mean, God, Philly just keeps getting away with it, don't they?
Yeah,
they just keep getting away with getting these really, really athletic defensive prospects that just mold into their defense perfectly. I could tell you, so I'm a Dolphins and a Packers fan. I about danced on my hobbled leg when they finally took a receiver. The Packers did. Holy moly! I could have moonsaulted. If only they did it a couple years ago, maybe the Hall of Fame quarterback would still be on the team. We'll see. But yeah, those are just some that came to mind. There were a couple of draft picks that I disagreed with in the moment. Like I don't know too much about Grace Abel, the offensive guard that went to Seahawks, but I felt like after all that bluster about moving back in the draft, just to take an offensive guard that who knows maybe you could have gotten later doesn't really jive with me.
And there's always weird things that happen in the draft, right? So the Chiefs draft, the Eagles drafted at 31, and the Chiefs drafted at 32, but they traded out for the pick. Now, just the way this thing reads, they swapped draft picks. I don't think they would have drafted anything. Now, maybe this was from a previous year's trade, was not last night, and that's why it's done the way it was. But anyway, it just says Philadelphia Eagles via trade with the Chiefs, and it says Kansas City Chiefs via trade with the Eagles. I don't think it would have mattered. I think they were still going to take who they were going to take. But, anyway, and I don't listen. That could be notating a trade that was made. before this offseason. So could have been last year's draft that they made that trade. But anyway, all right. Well, listen, Nick, I think that's about all we got. Baseball teams at Louisville. I think the softball teams at Louisville. I think I want to say the golf teams in Lexington playing in some kind of regional or some type. So I could be wrong about that. But we got Bob down at the Moore Center while Nick is icing up his ankle. Bob's trying to get in touch with Jeremiah Wilson. If he does speak, we'll see. Now, a lot of these portal kids have, on their visits to say, hey, we're not gonna talk. But if Nick's right and there's no one else involved with Jeremiah, you might get a commitment story tonight later on the Osceola.com. But we will be back on Monday at 3 p.m. with another live show. Nick, you feel like we got anything else we need to talk about?
There were a couple of more offensive tackles that we broke that said official visits. There was Hayden Ainsworth who said an official visit, 4-star offensive tackle that happened earlier in the week. George Hasiotes last week also sent his official visit. We just haven't talked recruiting in a while, Pat. So there's been a couple of guys that we've talked to, we've reported on that have set up visits. Again, I love what Herb's doing on the trail. Like, I know that he knows that he has a lot of bodies to replace, but he is putting his full effort into it. And I can't say as much for some of the other coaching staff at their respective positions.
The good news is they're not, they need a lot. They're not going to get them all. They need to bring in as many as they can as the guys that they feel that can play, and they have a chance at landing. And I think that was one of our criticisms with this staff last summer was we just did not feel that they had enough depth at any one position. They ran out of defensive ends very quickly last year. I think by our count, they only brought in 6. I think they got surprised when they didn't get a couple of those kids. So, I think they're doing a good job and really expanding a wide net for the offensive line group, and we'll see how the rest of it comes together. But we will be back on Monday. If you're not a subscriber to the Osceola, please go to theosceola.com. You can actually get to our portal message board, our board thread. We've got an outgoing thread, meaning departures from the roster, which has been very little this week. Have not had to update that in a couple of days. We do have updates today on guys that Florida State could be interested in. We've talked about a bunch of them, but you can certainly read more about those kids as we have broken down bios on all of the kids that are going to come on official visits or unofficial visits via the portal. But we'll be back on Monday. If you have not subscribed to the Osceola YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button before you leave this afternoon or whenever you're watching it. And also hit the notification button so that you get notifications when we are doing these shows live or taped. Right now, we've been going every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 3 to about 4. We will obviously during football season, we'll go probably much longer than that to the chagrin of the group. But we always got a lot to talk about. But we want to thank you for joining us. Nick, get that ankle popped up, get some ice on it, maybe drink a beer or two, and get a little loopy.
We got the Motrin ready. We're good.
Feel a little bit better. And we'll be back on Monday. Kurt or Bob and possibly Eric Llewellyn will join us to talk about the FSU Louisville series. I think Lulu is going to come back on either Monday or Wednesday, depending on what his schedule looks like when he gets back with the team on Sunday night. But we hope everyone has a great weekend. Enjoy the draft. Enjoy whatever you're going to do. And we will see you next Monday at 3 p.m. on the Osceola YouTube channel. Thanks.